Guys, ammunition for this video has been provided by Browne Works Inc., manufacturer of fine custom handgun grips. If you guys are looking for very unique, very customized handgun grips for your favorite handgun, contact Mark at Browne Works Inc., link in the description below, and create something beautiful for your favorite handgun. And don't forget to tell them Wyoming Gun Project sent you. Welcome back to the channel, folks. So today we are going to take a look at a very cool, very iconic, some would say old now, Ruger P90 automatic pistol in .45 caliber. There it is right there. And for everybody's like, there's no such thing as 45 ACP, because I still keep getting that 45 ACP right there. Now, this was my father's gun that I think it was made in the 90s, in 1990, 92. I don't remember exactly when he bought this. Might have been right around 90, 92. And this is a completely investment cast gun. With an exception of a few parts, I think. I don't think the barrel's cast. It might have been, but there is a ton of cast parts on this gun. And you know what? It's had thousands and thousands. So many rounds, we lost count of how many rounds this thing has had through it. And it has been totally reliable. I don't ever remember this gun jamming, ever. Now I know that, you know, like any gun, they have issues. I'm sure somebody out there like, I had one as a piece of shit. It wouldn't shoot for nothing. But this one has been completely reliable and fairly accurate. If you're familiar with this gun, this was the gun that Antonio Banderas used in a movie Desperado back in the day. Now, I had one of these that I purchased in probably 93, 94, but it was a decocker. So it was a P90 DC. Instead of the safety, you click it down, it had two wings and it popped back up. It was the decocker model. This one has the safety. And it is double action, single action. Obviously, if with the safety on, it doesn't work. And it's, guys, I'm telling you, this is a big, clunky, single stack 45 from the 90s. Look, it still even has the sticker on here. We didn't even used to bother to take the sticker off. Gun will fire with magazine out. It's still, so you know that's one of the original mags that came with this gun. And I'm telling you, this thing is freaking reliable. It eats everything. So it kind of, I don't know. I wish I could talk to a real, like, legit metallurgist that knows what they're talking about and could speak on investment castings and forgings and milling and, you know, all this other kind of MIM and all these metal technologies and which one's the best, which one's, you know, because I know the gun manufacturers want to balance strength and durability with cost and all that other kind of crap. But let's just take a close-up look at the gun so I can show you that it is, maybe the camera, hopefully will pick it up. It is definitely completely investment cast. Look at all that. You can see the casting marks right there where they didn't machine it. You can still see some of the casting, that uneven casting stuff there. That's the biggest example. You could see, let's see if you can still see casting lines on this frame. This is cast, investment cast frame and slide. And I think Ruger's still doing investment castings on their revolver. There you go. I think you might be able to see it under there. There we go. Yep. There's the line for the investment cast. There's the line for the cast trigger and also the little hole. That's a dead giveaway. That little circle right there. It's a dead giveaway. That's a cast part. Hammer is cast part. I don't know if the safeties are, because see, you can cast, it might be because it's kind of uneven right there. You could cast and they machined it. You could cast parts and then machine away material, and it can be difficult to tell if they're cast sometimes. But I think nowadays, if people use cast parts, they're usually the smaller parts are cast, or if the frame is still cast, they'll have, you know, hammer trigger sear and all that kind of stuff as forged and machined parts. But again, this thing, I don't know if the barrel, I don't think the barrel is, I think the barrel is, you know, machined at a bar stock steel or something. But guys, I'm trying to tell you, and I hope this thing doesn't prove me wrong on the range and screw up, but this thing has been so reliable, but so reliable and accurate on the range for 30 plus years and thousands of rounds. Now I know 45 auto is not a high pressure round, so it doesn't really beat the gun up a lot like, let's say, 44 Magnum or rifle rounds. So maybe there's some debate on whether investment casting is perfectly acceptable and it offers a lot of longevity for handguns that aren't high pressure cartridges, and not so much for rifles, because rifles with cast parts, especially AKs, get a lot of crap. That's funny, you can see, I don't know if you guys can see it, but you can see the machining cast marks on there. Also, I wanted to show you, well, let me just show you the sight picture. It is standard white 3-dot sights. I think the reason this gun is so thick and wide is because it used casting parts, but it is clunky and just, but it's retro as hell. But this is what was cool. This is what was hot back in the late 80s, early 90s, man. I did want to show you something else about this sucker, and that is, there you can see the ejector right there. And Smith & Wesson, I think, kind of copied this. Because they're like, oh, you could take the M&P down by just push the little lever down. Yeah, but Ruger had this way before. That's how you take it apart. They had this way before you came out with the M&P. And then you just line up the dealio here, the slide stop, push it out, slide it right off. So let's look at this fantastic investment cast frame, which again is still holding up, man. It is still holding up after all these years. And you can see, there you go, look at all the casting stuff in there. And it is a link barrel, like a 1911. So it does have a link to it. Let me put this back together. And then the other cool thing is, well, sometimes the plate will snap back up like it did. Sometimes it does snap. Let's see if I, sometimes see if you hit it hard enough, it'll snap back up. But when it was newer, it wouldn't, and you could just insert the magazine and it would put it right back up and you're ready to go. Again, double decocker with the double single action clunkiness that it is. Trigger is not great, but it is shootable. So you know what? Let's get this early 90s investment cast Ruger P90 auto pistol, made famous by Antonio Banderas in Desperado. And let's get a weight. So it is 30.98 ounces, and with the factory supplied, I think that's an 8-round magazine, 7 or 8, 33.59 ounces. Now let's just get a trigger pull on there. See what the double action is pulling at. This might be a little bit difficult to get. 1080, okay. We're only do one on the double action. Let's test the single action. 390. 486. That's probably more. And 410. I'd probably say it's about a 4.5-pound trigger pull, because once you get there, it's not bad. It's just getting there and all the grittiness. It's not heavy, I would say. So for double action, you got a little bit of take up, right? Probably 1/4 inch, and then you're pulling through, bang. It cycles. Here's your trigger release. It's out, way out there. And then you got to come back. And then once you hit that wall, look at that, gritty, but it's not heavy. So that's what the trigger gauge measures, is the actual weight, but it doesn't measure like how smooth or whether it breaks like glass on, you know, certain guns like 1911 and stuff. But here we are. Here's the reset is all the way back out there, and then you got take up again. So you got all this take up. It's good. That went grit, grit, grit. After all these years, it's still gritty. But let's, you know what? Let's get it out to the range and see how it really shoots. Range portion of this review. We have our Ruger P90. We have 7 rounds of 230 grain hardball. It's Winchester white box. We got our steel, C-zone steel at 25 yards. And we're just going to see how this old girl shoots. Again, as discussed at the tabletop, never had a problem with this gun. I don't expect I will now, but you never know. The old Ruger is holding up nice. I'm going to tell you what, there is a lot more noticeable recoil with these older guns. And that could be too, that the recoil spring is probably worn out on this thing. It is like, but you hear the clunkiness. But Antonio Banderas would approve. Maybe I'll give you my best Antonio Banderas face when I'm shooting this. Accuracy portion. We got our Ruger P90. We have our 3-inch shoot and see pasted to our USPSA target. We have 3 rounds of 45 auto. Now I've switched to the blue bullet reloads because these blue bullets tend to be more accurate than the copper jacketed factory ammo, any of them, any brand. So I want to try to give the gun the best chance. I'm going to go back 7 yards and we're just going to see how it shoots. All right, so it seems like it's shooting a touch low. That could be with this ammo too. But it groups pretty good, and for being as old as it is, that's not bad. I'll take that. So let's go get the final thoughts. All right, folks, final thoughts on the Ruger P90 and 45 ACP. I think it's a cool, nostalgic gun, man. And after all these years, it's still holding strong. It's still shooting great. It's accurate enough. It partially could be me, partially the gun. I think it was okay accuracy. Seemed to shoot a little bit low for me. And, but it's, again, it's been totally reliable through all these years with these Same mags with the same springs, the same recoil spring, which probably needs to get changed if you could even find one. Maybe it's a 1911 spring. I'll have to look into that. It's clunky. It's old now, but it still works. And it still works pretty good. Now, is this something I would carry around? No, because it's a big, heavy chunk of a gun. It's rattly. It shakes, it rattles. It's clunky. That's the best way I could describe this. But it still shoots darn good, and it's really reliable. And it's still a viable platform for self-defense. If you bought one of these 30 plus years ago and you still have it in your house, I wouldn't see any reason to change it up unless you wanted something super high cap. But you get, now I did find out there are 7-round mags. So you get 7 plus 1, you get 8 rounds. That's not the greatest. 8 rounds of 45 ACP though. And a home defense setup wouldn't be too bad, or a truck gun or something like that. Or in like the case of this gun, if this was your father's, he bought all those years ago, there's a nostalgia piece to it. And that's one of the reasons why this is a very cool gun. But so I'm going to keep shooting this, and I'm going to keep this. This one's not going anywhere. For all its faults, it is probably one of the most reliable pistols I have ever owned, my father has ever owned, and I have ever owned. And it's definitely accurate enough to get the job done. But reliability is excellent with this gun. I don't ever remember having issues with it. And that's the truth. So there it is, guys. Oh, and by the way, Antonio Banderas in Desperado, he likes it too. So he had dual wield. I don't have two. If I had two, I'd be out here like shooting up bars in Mexico too. But there it is, guys. Thanks for watching. We will see you next time.